Welcome to Unorthodox Perspectives with your host, Luke Burrows.
I think like your mission, your vision, your purpose, your passion, it's all interlinked.
And Leroy Mabonga.
Discipline is the first step to control.
All right, Leroy, you there?
I'm here, man. I'm here. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unorthodox Perspectives.
Really looking forward to this show. And guys, if you're watching this live, you may have just seen like a new thing. I've just tried playing the intro, so hopefully the sound came through as well. But anyway, I will check that later on. But I was real pumped when like this feature just came on my side. I was like, we're definitely trying that today. But anyway, guys, that's a different story for a different day. Leroy, thank you so much for joining me today. How's your week been?
My work has been good, man. My work has been good. Very busy. I had a panel, business panel that I was invited on. So that was live on YouTube. That happened on Friday evening. And I was applying for some grants as well, for some business grants, So yeah, it's been a busy couple of days. How about yourself, man?
Amazing. Yeah, so I turned 25 this week, which is crazy. On Thursday, nearly forgot that. So that was this week I kind of took a step back from different things, and kind of leading into obviously our topic today. So that was pretty much my week, a little bit of a step back, and I'm reflecting everything with personal life, but also with Grow Together. I done a episode on Friday of the Grow Together podcast, just sharing, like hitting the pause button a bit. I have kind of batched and done so many episodes of like the Grow Together podcast and that before, so I've got like another month of like episodes kind of just like on my computer, like not doing anything. So I will be sharing those with people. But not as much content in that as we do hit a little bit of that pause button to reflect, and obviously that's the topic for today.
Yeah. Today we're talking about reflection, and I guess when you hear the word reflection, it can sort of seem like it's just another word. Like we all can reflect. That's something that anybody can do. But I think the more we're speaking about it, then we kind of found the unorthodox side of reflecting upon our lives. It's like that question I asked you, Luke. Like, how would you say reflection has really impacted your work or yourself or your in the last couple of years? And I think you said self-awareness, right?
Self-awareness, awareness in general, self-awareness as well. Because obviously you asked me that question before, like you say, and it's just like through that reflection process, you're able to find what works, what doesn't work, what you're able, to do differently. With my reflection process, I also put in things that I've learned about myself during the week. If I've had any like challenges or just worries and concerns like on my mind, because like when you're able to bring all those things to the forefront of your minds, you're just much more aware of them. So an example with like, let's just say somebody right now, a listener, has a worry, or a concern. Like, we kind of know we have that worry and that concern, but if we're able to write it down, and I use reflection for this, if we're able then to write it down and then ask ourselves more powerful questions around that, like, so why am I concerned about this? Why am I worrying about this? Or a challenge, so write it down, become more consciously aware of it. Why is this challenging to me? Is it because I don't have the skill sets, to overcome this challenge, or I don't have the knowledge, or I don't have the right connections, or don't have the resources, or like whatever it is? And so then once you're more aware, you can then start to find the solutions ultimately to overcome that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That makes sense. So yeah, it's all about reflections then today, isn't it?
Yeah. And so just on that point, like I've shared my reflection process quite a few times on different podcasts that I do. I'm kind of interested if you have a reflection process yourself, and if you do, what does that look like?
I think I reflect mostly like I tend to have this way of dealing with my days where by around 6 o'clock I would I ideally want to be finished with any work or any projects and stuff like that. And then from 6 until, late, I guess, it's more of a time to gather my thoughts and just reflect on the day, maybe, and then over the weekend, that's when I would probably go out for a walk, go out and just do something where I'm in a different environment, putting myself out of what I'm always doing to give a better look at that work or whatever it is that I've been focusing on. So it helps me to reflect in a better way because I'm not in the work, but I'm outside of the work. Do you get me? So that's my process, I guess. My process of reflection is taking myself out of the work. So after the day, it's just taking myself out of anything to do with the work, and then just reflect and just work on yourself. And then to have a deeper reflection, I think sometimes you need to actually go out and just have that space to actually look at your life from outside it, And like I think what you said there, like, is powerful because if you think if you are able to write such questions down, and then really drill yourself down to really see why do you feel like that's how is this impacting you. I remember an exercise I saw on a TED Talk once, and this guy was presenting and he was basically talking on how you can overcome a challenge, a goal, or something that you want to achieve. And it was like, write down whatever it is that you're scared of, or whatever it is that's the problem, or whatever it is that's the goal, or whatever it is that's the achievement you want to get. And once you've done that, then write the worst possible outcome that could happen if you did that very thing. List it all down. And then on the next column, write down the best thing that could ever happen if that thing actually happened. And
Right. Yeah. I think
guess,
I've heard. Yeah. I think I've heard that. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess it's like once you've sort of faced that, you put yourself in a different space now because you've almost encountered everything that you yourself already thinking could happen, or this could actually happen, or this whatever it is. But now putting them in front of you gives you a better sense of control. So I guess reflection is good in many ways when you break it down.
For sure, man. Just quickly, so your audio is kind of went really quiet, like halfway through that. So just wondering if I can still hear you. It was just a bit, just went a bit more quieter than before.
Like it sort of went down.
Oh really? Is it my end? Maybe it's we will. Okay, no worries. We will fix. I'll try and fix it as we go. But yeah, I completely agree. Is that better or?
How can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, that's a bit better.
Is that better? Yeah.
It's a bit better, yeah. But going back to the topic, I like that. I try and finish all work by a bit later, by 8 p.m. or 8:30, and then I usually do like an hour of like reflection, like half an hour to an hour of reflection in the evening, and then I also do like weekly reflections, and then I do monthly ones as well. The monthly ones are more then to set the intentions for like the next month, like the goals and everything that I want to accomplish the next month, or So I kind of do that on like the daily level, the weekly level, and then the monthly level. And then obviously there's like a big one, like kind of like the end of the year, like yeah. But I like that. And before I didn't really used to do the daily ones. Basically I just used to do like journaling in the day and just like journaling and kind of like brain dumping, like where I just like write down all my thoughts at the end of the day, and then just kind of like leave it in like my notepad or on this note app I've got on my iPad. But then since I've kind of changed it, where even with my daily ones, I go a little bit more deeper, into the day, and it also has like the brain dump in there as well, like the thoughts that that like come to me thing, just then relax, kind of like in the evening and everything, and that's really helped. So I think ultimately, people have got to find something that works for them. But for me, adding more to like that daily reflection as well has really helped me. Is for you, has there been like any? So talk us through like your process a bit more as well. So like for mine, I have a series of like different questions that I ask myself, and then kind of like go from there type of thing. But I'm kind of interested in if you have the same, and if so, what sort of questions do you ask yourself?
I think I don't necessarily have questions per se
Mm,
that I ask myself. It's more of I have you just when you say like the yearly sort of like
mm,
reflection, um, I guess in order to understand how I reflect, um, I have this way of, by the time I'm leading up to like December time, like that whole month and into January, it's a very deeply reflective time for me. So
okay.
through that, I'm almost like also looking to the next year on. I'm
Mm,
looking at what I've done this year, and I'm seeing what I'm taking forward and how I'm applying myself to do better in the following year. So that
makes
whole
sense.
month in itself, I'm almost setting up either 6 months of that following year.
Mm,
I usually like to set it to 6 months. So around like July, I can then look at it again to see the end of the year. But in terms of the whole year, I then have like an overarching goal, right? It's like an overarching goal towards the destination. So then through the whole
mm,
months and every single day now, it's just my reflections are to center me back to my purpose. Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? And why should how can I better, achieve those goals?
mm.
So through journaling, I won't lie, I used to write quite a lot in terms of like my day.
Yeah.
So, lately I haven't, but through journaling, like I would always, because now I can always go back to like 2017 and I can
Mm,
look at the progression I did have. And now I can, through my reflections of today, I can see how far over the arching that goal, how far have I come over the years, you see. So it's a continuous reflective way of being, to keep me I guess on my path, to keep me centered in my path. Because in and out, I think, especially if we're talking about how unorthodox perspectives, we're trying to share with people that there are many ways to look at life and actually deal with life and actually
mm,
gain more control over your own life, right? Sometimes we are so caught up with how Steve Jobs does his reflections, how Bill Gates will, do his planning for the day, how who such and such goes about and do, what's best for them.
hmm.
It's good to have role models. It's good to have examples. It's good to have people we can look to encourage us not to give up on ourselves. Where I feel like sometimes we get it wrong is when I'm trying to copy your way of
Interesting.
reflecting. Do you get me?
Yeah.
If I was
Yeah.
to come, you want to say something?
No, it's fine. I'll wait. I'll wait, man. But no,
Yeah,
but I
like
agree. But I agree.
like if it was a case that I was to start writing questions and then ask myself, as you do, I would find it very hard to apply it to the way that I am, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we are two
Mm,
different people. So it's like you are a Mac, a Mac Apple, and I'm a Windows Apple. The softwares that the Windows, the laptop, the
yeah.
softwares that we run on are completely different. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So hence why it'll be very difficult for me to take something from the Apple Mac and install it on a Windows a laptop, because we
Mm,
run in totally different formats, but we are so still efficient in our own ways. And I guess I feel like that's what I feel like we're trying to just share with unorthodox perspectives, is that we are all different, like hardwares and softwares, and we
mm,
all run in different formats. But that does not necessarily mean because one format is so successful, you who is a different one cannot find your own, like, way to get yourself in a successful form. So I think for me, like that's where my process is. Like it's very my year, it's the overarching goal, and the weekly and daily, they are more of like, have you ever tuned a guitar? I don't know if you've ever played a guitar. It's like when you're tuning a guitar,
Yeah,
right? Like I've got this app, like whenever I've been trying to play, and whenever you're tuning the guitar, right, there is an app that will tell you how far you are from the sound that the string is supposed to make.
right. Makes
You get me?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I was to take the analogy now and basically explain my process of reflection, is that when I'm reflecting, whether it's every week or those daily stuff, like it's to find out whether I'm playing the string, which is the goal that I'm
Right.
trying to get to. Is it playing in the way that it's supposed to sound? You know what I mean? And I guess that gives me a sense of that keeps me focused, that keeps me determined in what it is that I say I want to do and what it is that I'm working on.
Mm.
I'm less discouraged by looking outside and seeing many other things that are going on, but I'm able to now keep my eyes on my goal. You know what I mean? If that makes
Makes
sense.
sense.
Mm.
It does. And I think I love that. I think for me, it's not just reflection in which that happens. I think that happens in so many other different, kind of areas of our lives, and just so many other like habits or practices. Like it could be meditation, or it could be reading, or just learning. Um, it could be with just so many, like health and fitness, or is a huge one. There's people who really are so tuned into gym life, and then there are those that maybe prefer to do exercise and physical activity in a different way. And so, like you say, it's just finding what works for you. I think, also, like you said, with what we're doing here, and obviously other people are doing as well, is sharing what works for them,
Mhm.
because then other people can, because like through that process, other people be like, oh, that could work for me. I could try that. And then if they do, they then figure out if it works for them or not. But if they don't try, these different practices, like they never know. Um, I think that, there are some different things that people just like, because if they know themselves, they know if something's going to work for them or not. But I also like to try and be open-minded to new things as well. So, again, like that's why obviously what we're doing, what other people are doing, is to share, like, this works for us, try it might work for you. And if it does, great, like you found a new habit or a new way of doing something or a new way of working or a new way of thinking, and then you can continue to go out there and create your life. So I'm Jeff, you've kind of said about people finding what works for them, because I feel like there's like this pressure with certain things, especially with like wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym, crush it, and it's
Yeah.
like, great, like that works for so many people. And there's probably scientific evidence about waking up early. Fantastic, great. Like I'm somebody who used to wake up like, I don't know, like 7:30 or something, and now I wake up at 6. So over time, like through my own growth, I've been like waking up earlier and earlier and earlier, and like getting my own routines in place. And so like, but that's the process, that's the journey, that's the growth journey. And to stop like with all this pressure on people of, they're just starting to take personal growth a bit more seriously, like wake up at 5 a.m., wake up at 5 a.m. People have to come to like their own like realizations of, okay, so this is beneficial for me, and just use that self-awareness within themselves to find what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And then also, I think, like, be honest with themselves as well. Like some things might not work for them, but then some things they might say not work for them, but they haven't even tried it. And so that's probably like a whole different conversation. But kind of going back to what we're talking about in terms of reflection, this is where reflection helps, like through reflection, I've noticed before that, that I wanted to change, like, so I used to always do running or like physical activity at the end of the day, so like an evening run or something. But then through reflection, I was like, actually, if I start my day with this and do more reflection in the evening, it just like balances up the day and like whatever it is. So it's like through reflection, like I've came to these own like realizations myself. And I think it's so much more powerful when people come to their own realizations rather than being told something. We can help and guide people along that way to maybe like speed up the process to come to those realizations. But I think that's what reflection really helps with.
Now, reflection. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I think from what you're saying, what I've got is like reflection is the mirror of the mind and how it's in itself like working, to, I guess, manifest your life, and sometimes it's those reflections that we run away from, like that truly give us the what your mind is saying to yourself, because like what you're saying is that sometimes you find that, okay, you find somebody who's going to the gym at 5, smashing the day before 10 a.m., and you're struggling to even get up before 9:30 in the morning, in reflecting, like there's a case where we reflect and we take into consideration how other people are doing. And when we now look at ourselves, we just put ourselves so low and down that we are not even interested in finding out what is it that works best for me. We won't even be interested in that now because we're already looking at how many other people are already succeeding with a formula that they themselves have come up to realize that this works for me. And it's very hard if you are now trying to say, okay, I want to go to the gym at a certain time, and you're not present because you're not looking towards something that you haven't done yet. And sometimes you find that you've got this anxious way of trying to keep on that time so that you feel like you're doing exactly what it is that is meant to be a reflection of success. And sometimes we forget the point of reflection because we want to chase what reflects like success, if that makes sense. We are chasing the reflection of success without reflecting on what it is that can make us a success. And it becomes a very difficult life to live because you are fighting your own hardware. If you are a Mac and you're looking at how Windows is installing such and such and such, you are struggling to understand that you work in a very different way, but that doesn't mean you are any less than the other one. You just need to. So you're contradicting your very own makeup of who you are. Trying to install something that does not really fill in. But as you said, like what we're trying to do here is not necessarily tell people what to take in and what to not. But we're basically bringing you a library, a dictionary, a whole yellow page sort of platform where you can just, listen and hear hear how other people are finding ways of success, of succeeding in self, so that you can have more, I guess, options to look at to see what works and what doesn't. Because it's very easy for you to get so discouraged when you are looking at somebody constantly posting every single day and telling you like, I'm in the gym at 5. Well, yeah, you didn't do this, It's good. It's all good, but you also need, people to say, this is how I've done it. This is how I do it. You can try it and see if it works for you. You know what I mean? Not constantly telling you this is how it works. This is how you succeed. This is how it is. Because in this day and age, we are all looking for some success in some sort of format. So chasing a reflection that is of success can lead you to actually neglect to reflect in your own way to find that success.
But on that, man, sorry for interrupting, but on that, I don't know if you remember a couple of episodes ago where I was talking about living from the inside out, not from the outside in. I think it comes back to that. I've been sharing this a lot lately because like all that stuff of like wake up at 5, gym is great, and again it works for a huge lot of people. That's just one example. But there's a whole lot of noise, there's a whole lot of like that outside stuff coming in.
Yeah.
And when we're able to, and I think the thing with reflection is it's really, it's a really I didn't really, when I first started it, I didn't realize how like a spiritual type of practice it was, because you're actually looking inwards. You're actually doing that inner work, and then from the findings you get from the reflection, taking action on that to then go out, if that makes sense. Like, and take action on it. So I think reflection is a huge spiritual practice, and so, and it just goes back to that inside out kind of mindset that I was, perspective that I was sharing before, and I think that that's just one way how people can then start to be a little bit more mindful and just living that life from inside out, like knowing who they are, having that self-esteem, having that confidence, knowing their values, living in alignment with their values, their principles, and doing that reflection of like, okay, what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, where can I improve, and all that other inside work, so they can go out and be the best person or a better person than they were yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Just hearing you speak on that, in like how, the more you reflect on that inside out perspective, like whenever you have that inside out perspective, you almost have a choice of what you let in before you can let it out again. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because the inside out perspective, you now are understanding what's in you, what's within you, and when you are now living yourself and you're going outside and you're going into the world, as much as you interact with the world, when you have that sense of who you are and a very good reflection of that inside out, whatever you now take in, if you're watching this podcast right now and you're hearing what we're talking about, your inside out perspective, and like you said, you realize there's a spiritual aspect to it, a spiritual element to it, that your spirit will tell you what it will align with or not. When you reflect, your spirit could tell you that I'm okay with this, I'm not okay with this. And that awareness, that self-awareness, that's what makes the difference between those that can identify and actually have a say on that fact of, I don't want this because this is not really good for me. Where some people are easily led into having that outside in perspective, that whatever is being done by outside, I cannot miss out. I have to just let it in, you're just letting in something that, and sometimes that causes us that confusion because you are things that are not working with your software, if I go back to that analogy again, is now causing you that constant frustration. I was thinking about I've just been thinking about my process on reflection, and I was thinking, there's so many times I've actually realized that you can actually find spaces to be in a reflective mood on your life and in that inside out perspective. I remember I do care work, do care work. And sometimes I'm at work for almost like 12 hours, right? And you think you are in this space. Yes, I'm at work and, I'm doing the duties and responsibilities I need to do. But I've come to a point over the couple of years that I've been working in care is that you can get into a point where you are in a meditative state at work. You are in a meditative state that enables you now to reflect on your life and reflect in who you are, because care work is more than just you're just giving somebody food, you're doing whatever it is. It's about compassion, it's about emotion, it's about connection, it's about actually being there for somebody. It's a human to human interaction. And it someone can easily identify that you are not here, you are not present with me, because sometimes the elderly, they are not coming from a point where we are of very a digital heavy society where we understand if you are holding a phone and I'm in the same room with you, I can talk to you maybe, you know, whatever it is. But for that generation, it's totally different. They are
Yeah.
very much, if I'm interacting with you, I'm talking, we are here. You know what I'm saying? And through that, I guess for me over the years, like you find that I get this linear perspective on my life when I'm at work. You
Right.
know, it's
Yeah.
you, because I'm in a position where I cannot always do what it is that I may want to do with my time for that
Yeah.
12 hours. The only thing I have power over is who I am in this environment. You following? So
That makes sense.
in your understanding of what it is you have control over in that environment, as an employee, I have certain duties and responsibilities. But as a being, as a person, I have a belief system. I have a way of looking at things, right? And I guess when I'm in that space where you're constricted of what you can do with that 12 hours, which is not what you may want to do, what I now do in my mind, it's very a linear way of looking at my life. What is it that matters? Because in that position, I can't just whip out my phone and start, you know, managing my stuff. No, I can't, right? But in the thought of what I need to do when I get off work, you know, you can get into a place where you now see what's the important things you need to care for. What is the most important things that you need to go after and do the things that you need to do. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get so caught up when you have so much ample time to do whatever you want. You get caught up in the choices you can have.
Very
The
true.
amount of, you know, you have so much choices. I mean, here, I'm at home. I can easily pick up a book. Nobody's gonna tell me, oh, what you doing? Like you're supposed to be, you know, carrying this food to that. You know what I'm saying? So you have much more control over that. And you hardly ever reflect on the impact that certain things are having over your life.
Yeah.
And that goes into whenever we're going out there and interacting with so much and having that outside in perspective. We are hardly reflecting on how those things from the outside are impacting us inside, you know. But let me not talk too much, man, because I'll be here.
No, man, that's
Hmm.
that you know, that totally makes sense. Definitely on the choices point, I think going a little bit off topic, but I think it all, you know, interlinks in. And again, that's why reflection is so important. Is that our choices and our decisions are pretty much like how we create our lives, you know, and so we have to reflect on those things if we want to make better choices and better decisions in the future. You know what I'm saying? Because like if we've made a wrong choice once, and we all have, and or if we've made the wrong decision, like the only way we're going to really learn from it is if we reflect on it. Like, why did I make that choice? You know, or because it made me feel this certain way, or like all this, or like what, you know, whatever the reason is. And so then we're so much more aware. So again, going back to what I mentioned before with, you know, with reflection, for me, it's all about like that awareness, because once we're aware, then we can change and start to do something about it. So I don't know, like, your thoughts on that, but also one thing I did also want to mention before I forget, and I was writing it down there, was I actually think reflection in a way like unlocks like who we are, and like all these other different things. Like I think on that real deep level, I think like we know who we are, like we know our values, we know our principles, we know what we even want to do with our life. Like we know what, you know, we have that vision for our life, you know. But because we get sucked into the system, or you know, just through like upbringing in that, and just experiences that we have, I think it gets lost. You know, I think it gets lost. And I think personal growth in itself, but also reflection, helps us to actually go back to like that state of mind to actually find or rediscover or discover like who we are and what we want to do. Like I've been on this thing for the last couple of weeks, just, you know, the end of July, which kind of triggered the pause for Grow Together. It's like, actually, if I look back and think about it, even before I started Grow Together, I kind of knew I wanted to start something like this. You know, even like with future businesses I want to build in the future. If I look back to when I was 17, 18, 19, I had the idea, like I had the concept for even those businesses that I wanted to start all the way back then. And so if we really think about it, I think a lot of us actually do know what we want to do. We do know like our values, our principles, etc. And sometimes, experiences and that can help bring them to the forefront. But I think if we done more of like that inner work, more of that personal growth work, more of that reflection work, more of that inner work, then we'll be able to find all that much easier, quicker, so then we can accelerate our growth.
You touched on something there on how you saw, you already had the concept at that age, right? Like, I think that's a very powerful statement there because, like you said, like sometimes we end up coming into this adulthood, right? And there's so much that life sucks us into that we tend to forget what it is that we may have been reflecting on at a young age. We may not have known that we are reflecting, or we may not have known that, we're actually in touch with what would make us feel like alive at that young age, right? And being so young, sometimes you're just constantly, you're so young, you're still young, yeah. So you even yourself, you start looking at yourself like, I can't wait to be 18 so that I can actually as an adult, right? But then we forget because, like I was saying earlier, like if I'm in that mindset of I can't wait until I'm 18, I'm not here no more. If I'm 16 at that time, I'm not here. I'm in the future.
So a real important point on that is I should communicate like this more, but I have said it in the past on different podcasts. Is like this moment right now, Leroy, like this is our life. Like so many people worry about, and you just saying that just triggered it for me. So many people worry about the past. I used to be that person, but like that isn't our life. That's in the past. Yeah, it's kind of shaped us into a little bit of who we are and everything, and our future as well. Like I also, for a period of time, and maybe still today a bit, live a little bit in the future because I have those dreams and visions and ambitions. Like I'm very ambitious and want to do so much and everything can grow and and so like, but our future isn't our life. Like tomorrow isn't our life because tomorrow is not promised. Like an hour from now isn't our life because it's not promised. This moment is our life, and you just saying that just triggered that for me. And I think that's also a very important mindset, ultimately, a mindset switch for people to experience, because when you're able to do that, you're just so focused on like in the moment of just like trying to like do your best in the moment and be the best person that you can be in the moment. And I think that's important. I also think there's a little bit of a balancing act because I think I don't want people to be so in the moment they make choices and decisions that will affect their future. Like every choice, every decision we make sets us down a different path. And so there are so what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure. But do you know what I mean? Like I think people they don't see the consequences of things or of like an action or a decision like they make, and then they wonder like a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, oh, why am I here? It kind of goes back to that point of we touched about before in terms of 20-year-olds and everything. If this moment is their life and they're deciding to get pissed or something or drugs or like whatever it is, like they're in that moment, they're making that choice, they're making that decision, but they're not thinking about the future and the effects that is going to have on their future down the line. So I think like there's a little bit of a balancing act, but ultimately it goes back to what I mentioned. When we're focused on living for the moment, we have to also have that mindset of being the best person that we can be in that moment, because that moment is our life, and making the best choices and best decisions we can again in that moment that will set us up for an even better or more prosperous future if that makes sense, but not necessarily live 10 years down the line, because that's not our life. If that all makes sense. I'm just going to grab my charger, but continue.
It does, man. It does really. Like, it's so true, man. There is a balancing act that needs to be done at the end of the day, because ultimately, like you said, you can't live into that future like that, and you can't just live at that point. That's why, like if I go back to that example I was making, like that 16-year-old is gonna have two statements to his ears or her ears, is that you're still young, you don't know what you want, you don't know what you're gonna do, whatever not, right? And you know as well that once you're 18, you can be or do whatever it is, and your statements will be taken with much more heavier weight than you do at that age, right? Now, the balancing act I would like to think is that it's identifying what it is you can do when you are 18, and coming back to this present moment and doing all that you can be to be in this present moment, right? In acknowledgement that there's a future of when you're 18, right? That you can do X, Y, Z. But right now at 16 years old, I can do ABC that will ultimately link up with what I will be when I'm that age. Now, for example, like for me, like when I was younger, especially when I was around the a college time, like I used to have an idea of what it is that I want to be around this age, right? When I get to like 24, 25, 26, how do I envision my life, right? Okay, calm. I want to be at least having some businesses. I want to at least, be a bit more healthy in a way, right? Calm. At that time in my life, because I understood where I wanted to be in a future tense, right? I'm not there yet. Fine. I accepted that fact that I'm still here. I'm at 16, right? So at 16, what can I capably do? What do I have control over in contributing to me being the best version I can be in preparation for that version I will be? Do you get me?
Yeah.
You understand there's a version you want to be, but you are also very aware of this present version you are, and you're accepting both versions. Do you know what I mean? I think the balancing act is in a way of having, it's like a needle through the past, future, and the present. And having that needle of synchronicity is synchronizing the three in a way that you understand the future version you want to be. And you are very aware of the version that you are today. And you also accept all that past, that version that you have been. Do you know what I'm saying? But that does not define who you are today. And today you know that you can be the best version you can be in preparation of that tomorrow's version. Do you know what I'm saying? So through that time, I used to go to the gym. I was involved in sports, right? I went to Duke of Edinburgh. I did so much. I just involved myself in places where I felt like this is just gonna open my being, myself, my version today into a greater version of myself, right? Okay, I play football, I play sports, I've got a job. Okay, fair and fine. You've got all these things, but not once was I constantly now thinking about the future, because now you are in a present, you are accepting the present you are, and you are doing everything to fulfill you in that present moment. So like what you're saying there, like now when you are reflecting, and I'll go back to now how for me when I got to this age now, and then I'm looking back in that reflection, I've got this way of reflecting over the past 10 years. I'll just look at how is my life gone. Do you know what I mean? And just see, okay, you're getting into another decade at the end of the day, So there's so many different points of reflection. I guess that's something I could say as well, that it's not always, there's not one way to everything. It's you. Do you know what I mean? Ultimately, it's you. And how you reflect, nobody's gonna, tell you, oh, you shouldn't do it like that, you shouldn't do it like this. No, how you reflect, it has to best align with who you are. Simple as that. Because today I am here and I reflect on the past 10 years and I'm like, you know what? Certain things it's like now I'm like that guitar string. I'm now like seeing how have I calibrated myself to be in that place where I wanted to be. Today I'm here with you. We're talking about, this podcast. We're talking about business. We've spoken about business. I do have a couple of businesses that I have. I've got ventures that I've got going on. They may not be in a point of ideal, but
Yeah.
the fact is, it's all about this version being the best version I can be in preparation of the version tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important. And you mentioned something there about we all have our own way to reflect. I know people who refer to reflect with other people as well. Like we think reflection is that very much of a personal thing, and it is. Reflection is a very personal thing. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes we think that we have to do reflection on our own. Like it's still a personal thing. Like whatever way we do it, it's a very personal thing. But it doesn't mean you have to do it on your own. As I start to build a team, like I'm going to do reflections on my own because I like that, especially for the different areas of my life. But also there's going to be reflections with the team, that's more focused on business. And so that's a really important point you mentioned there, because people reflect in different ways. And some of that is maybe with other people who are trusted people to them, friends or family or co-workers, or just people that they trust. And they just like those dynamics, of just reflecting with somebody else, and it may help them to find new things out about themselves or what's worked or what hasn't worked, to then ultimately grow and move forward, which is the most important thing. So again, like I love that you mentioned that fact ultimately. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on that, or any final thoughts in general? So yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, reflecting with people, it's a powerful practice in itself. I'm not gonna lie. Like I do myself have people that I generally speak to, and friends that that there's a powerful element to how you go on, once you have had an exchange with these people, because in reflecting with other people, it takes you from your own. It's like you're now voicing out your own reflections to somebody else to hear how you're also hearing yourself, and through
Yeah.
their responses they can have you looking at your own reflections in a different way.
Yeah, and that's really powerful, because the whole thing of this show is an Unorthodox Perspectives, somebody else's perspective. So if you reflect with somebody else, but even through reflection, if you're somebody who's maybe a little bit more self-critical or hard on yourself, and on your list, if you do something that I do with questions, what's worked well this week, or what's worked well this month, or what's worked well this year, you have 2 things. Really, only 2 things? But on your list of whatever it is of what hasn't worked well, you've got this whole great big list. If you're reflecting with somebody else, they can actually go, hold on, Leroy, hold on there. Surely, we can balance this out. And actually, there are so many other things that you've done this year that that has been great, that has worked, etc. So I can definitely see how that's a real powerful process with other people who can share their perspectives on things, but also just get you thinking about your own reflection process, and if you're being a little bit hard on yourself, or all these other different things come into play.
I think that's why it's so important for that sort of circle, inner circle they call it, just having those close friends. Like how they say, show me the 5 closest people you have in your life, and I can tell you who you are. It's not about somebody predicting who you are, but it's just a general sense of, birds of the same feathers flock together.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You are never gonna see an eagle play around with a chicken. Same will you never see a hyena hunting with a lion. Do you know what I mean? It's just basic law we also have to understand that as human beings, as much as we may talk about laws of attraction, laws of such and such and such, just as there is the law of gravity to our feet, so is there a law to how this being connects with the natural world or the outside or the other people, right?
Mhm.
So that power, like you're saying, of having people, these are my final thoughts. Having those people, around you, they in themselves, they are an insulation before you even go out into the world,
Yeah,
if that makes
makes
sense.
sense. It
you
does.
know because
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
you're in yourself, you're in your room, right? You're in your own self, but you cannot constantly be like, you have to share this person of who you are, and having people around you who will tell you with honesty enables you to share that reflection and see how it reflects in the world before you shine it out into the whole world.
hmm
And that's why people like that are so powerful in our lives, because every single one of us has that. If there's not one person, two people, three, four, five, but there's always a very close person you speak to, and
yeah.
they know you for who you
hmm
truly are, and you are not afraid to voice out your thoughts, because you understand that through their interaction they can help you, like my string on my guitar, calibrate you into who you are through your own, interaction with them. So reflection, I guess, like I said, final thought. I mean, reflection, it's a it's a subject that's not really like the most fantastic and most, attractive, but
Mm,
it's a very powerful thing that we are so unaware of. It's very powerful, because a business cannot know how they're gonna grow the next year if they haven't reflected on their numbers of the previous year. It's
yeah,
as simple as that. So if we take those practices into our own lives and realize that we need to update, I guess reflections are the point of updating. Like when your phone is telling you
yeah.
that, hold on, let me update for a little while,
hmm
when it's off, that's you. When you take that time off from your world, like as I say, for me, I would rather go out and do some recreation or something.
Yeah.
That time in itself, even going to work for me, it has now become a point of reflection,
Mm,
a meditative part of life, and coming back into my life, I've got a different view of my life, So having reflections and finding your own pockets of times when it's best for you, finding your own way to just reflect and stay tuned to who you are, what you want to do, what it is that you want to achieve, but not get caught up with that fact that you are not where you want to be, that you forget that you are still here. Like it's a very wide, broad subject in a very little word, I guess.
yeah.
Reflect.
And just like my final thoughts would be, and just like really, just really important ultimately. I think people don't practice it because they maybe like don't like know it, or just like, reflection, like what's that? And like we were saying before we went live, before we started, people like they may even reflect, but not on that real like conscious level. Like actually sit down and like practice it and sit down and actually do it. Like something might happen, they might come off like a business call meeting or come off a call with someone and be like, oh, should I have said this? Should I have done that? Um, well, which is a little bit like kind of reflecting, like you're reflecting over the call, what could have happened better, or what you did do well, or things like that. But I don't think people really, and the more we talk about this era, the more I actually recognize that it is a bit, unorthodox, unconventional, like for people to sit down and to do reflection. And I think for me, I've shared this more this year. Like my overriding mission is to create more of like that conscious personal growth world where we're all practicing like these things. If it's mindfulness, if it's gratitude, if it's reflection, if it's developing more self-awareness. And reflection is such a huge part of that. And it's such a huge thing that a lot of people don't do because they don't know about it, or just like, that's not for me, or I don't have time for that. And then go watch 5 hours of Netflix, And so I just think it's something that obviously like conversations like this and just with personal growth in general to talk about more, to get it out there more, because I think when people start to practice it in their own way that works for them, they see the benefits of it. And it's all growth strategies to help people to grow, to create, for me, that ultimate like personal growth role where people are accomplishing that ultimate goal, a better version of themselves. And that's the final thing I have to say, man.
Nah, that's powerful, bro. That's powerful. I just thank you, man. Thank you for bringing along the journey, you know. And yeah, it should be fun, man. It should be good.
Absolutely. So guys, if you like this episode, do let us know. Hit us up on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm on like all platforms, so just hit me up wherever you can find me. I'll put links down in the description to our Instagrams and everything. And yeah, we'll be back next week. I'm not sure. Do we have a guest next week? I'm not sure. I think we've got a couple of guests in August, so we look forward to that. And cool. Right. So Leroy, I'm going to try and play this outro now. Let's see if it works.
All right. Thank you for everyone, and till next time.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Unorthodox Perspectives.
If you liked today's episode on the show, please subscribe and leave a comment below.
All relevant links for today's episode of the podcast can be found in the description, so please check them out.
And we will be back next week with another episode. Until then, have an awesome week.